Lampard.
Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Saturday, the 2nd of November, 2019. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
I'm not as tired, but I'm also not at Rob's house.
And Robert Kemp.
You're not as present.
Yeah.
Is there a connection here?
No, I think I just slept better the last couple of days. So I'm finally recovered from being tired for like 2 whole weeks.
Do you think it was the sleeping that was causing it?
Yes, I think the sleeping was what was causing tiredness or non-tiredness. I think that's generally how that works.
Not necessarily, but it certainly helps to restorative powers of sleep. I'm sure one can definitely feel tired, even though you've probably slept too much.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely a thing for me.
Well, they say that sleeping too much is actually bad, in theory.
Definitely.
Whatever that means. Whatever too much actually means, of course, because as usual, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm sure someone will say a completely different number in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Just like they did with drinking glasses of water or whatever other shit that they've decided is not actually true any longer.
Yeah.
Coffee is sometimes cancerous, right? But sometimes not.
Everything is
everything.
sometimes.
Yeah. Someone maintains a website of like the Daily Mail, things that cause cancer and don't, or
yeah.
both in a lot of cases.
I think the US government maintains a website that does that, doesn't it?
Probably.
That's pretty funny. The right amount of alcohol cures everything. It's basically the headline they want to put, right? Or I would want them to put. So everyone has a precise alcohol consumption requirement.
Oh, but then you'd have to, really closely regulate it so that you adjust up the exact amount.
They need to make it a government mandated system where they supply you with the exact right amount of alcohol per week. It's just like you don't have. It's like a prescription. You don't have to think about it. They just deliver the exact right amount to you. You're like, well, I just have to get through this, I guess.
A little bit like your gluten-free allowance, if you have one. It's like now you need a booze allowance. But surely you can get by just on making. If you don't want to have straight up drinks, they can just give you a boozy tiramisu or something, or like a cake,
or just a straight up alcohol pill. You don't even have to interact with the alcohol at all. It just goes into your stomach, and then you just mysteriously feel drunk immediately afterwards.
What if they made wine gums with actual wine in it?
They did that at one point, didn't they?
I'm sure that's probably where they came from, right?
Well, no, I meant they did that as a special edition at some point.
No.
How would that?
What?
Yeah, I guess you can have alcoholic liqueurs, can't you? But they're not that alcoholic, surely.
Depends what this requirement is.
Mm.
I mean, they're not that alcoholic by the metric of I need to get wasted every 4 hours.
Exactly. You'd have to eat a lot of chocolates or wine gums.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no. Normally the content is super tiny in those.
Yeah. Why is it that when you've been drinking beers or whatever, and you've just got the right amount of drunk where you're feeling good or whatever, and you don't really need to drink anymore in order to feel, you're drunk enough. Why is that when you most want another drink? Why isn't that the time to have a glass of water instead, or a Coke or something? But no one does, because then that's the time you want another beer for some reason, even though you don't need it.
Because the beer is, at this point, you've associated the beer with the good time.
With the good times.
Reason.
But
so
can't you learn?
I can exaggerate this good time by having more, right?
But it doesn't make it any better after 2 or 3.
Well, that's because we haven't got a convenient on-screen indicator to tell us where's the overdose line.
That's what we're missing, the HUD. If we just had that, maybe that could be a smartwatch thing where it tells you your drunken levels.
Your blood alcohol.
Yeah.
It just stabs a needle into your wrist.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We can learn something off those diabetics. It's not blood sugar, it's blood alcohol.
Yeah.
They've got readers on them, right? They just permanently affix one.
Is there no way? I guess there's definitely no way to read that surely you could. There's probably other ways that you could read drunkenness without directly measuring blood alcohol levels. You could probably learn how flushed you get or something. Yeah, but I mean something that you could measure with wearable tech somehow.
A chip on you wear over a tooth.
Although you wouldn't want that data to get out, would you? How drunk you are, how often?
No. I'm sending this to Samsung Health.
Yeah.
my boozy levels.
booze levels.
I'm sure Korea will treat that information in a private and respectful manner.
Indeed.
Next day, you get a headline saying Britain's the worst.
Well, we get those anyway, so
yeah. Now is the climate. If you're gonna like throw some accusations about how Britain's the worst or something, it's like that's fine. We can take it. We know. Right now, we know.
I mean, people are in the pub at 7 a.m. this morning.
Oh well, yeah. But presumably not ordering a beer, right?
Well,
right.
Well, are you supposed to watch the rugby, especially when you're losing?
You watch it with a cup of
tea
that's slowly going cold. Well, actually, a cup of tea. There was the most British watching of the rugby I think I've ever had this morning, because it's like we went around some of the running crews this morning, and basically there was just like 2 giant pots of tea on the coffee table.
Yes,
everyone was just pouring their own tea. It's
so
like
British.
There was even a tea cozy. Like it's a tea cozy. I can't remember the last time I saw a tea cozy.
It's because you don't own one. And you don't go to people who do. You haven't been to an old person's house in quite a while.
Actually, I'm sure Gnome's looking around thinking, I bet we own one somewhere.
Yeah, you probably do. Stuffed in one of those drawers.
Yeah, probably. Some rag somewhere.
But do you actually own a teapot?
Yes, actually. We
Okay,
do.
then. So you probably do have a tea cozy then.
Yeah, probably.
Assume one
So
kind
British.
of necessitates the other.
Well, I mean, are they really that necessary, the cozies? Like, how long do you need a pot to stay?
I mean, the rate these people drink it, not long.
Well, it depends whether
You don't need the cozy.
yeah.
whether it's a continuous brew or whatever, I guess. Or whether you're just keeping the long tea brew it at the start and then keep it warm for a long time. I think it's obviously the idea. So you make a lot at once. It's like a thermos, basically.
Yeah.
It depends. If you've got enough people there that are basically going to empty a pot in like a minute because everyone wants a.
Then you don't need the cozy, do you?
No, of course you don't. It's just going straight in a mug. The cozy will become your hands, or you just get everyone to put their hands around this teapot. It'd be like Death Stranding. It'd be like all these hands just. Be a part of the ritual, I suppose. The tea ritual. Everyone gets a little bit of burn. This is the podcast.
It sure is a podcast.
It is now. Oh dear. Death Stranding, did you say?
I did.
It's not time to talk about video games yet.
What do you want to talk about, Zeg?
I want to talk about how
tea-related, kettle-related stories.
not quite. It's more of a house grouse, except not really even a grouse. Our house has been upgraded to have a smart meter for the electricity and the gas, I guess.
Yeah, they're trying to get everyone to install those. Aren't they?
Yeah, I'm sort of on that list, except they keep calling my phone from. I'm pretty sure it's them, the energy company, trying to ring me, but they ring me on a number that Samsung determines is spam.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
So I think it's them trying to ring me every now and then, but I'm just not sure because it's like it looks very much like a dodgy spam number.
Yes.
And it's like, so I don't really want to answer it, and it's like, but they really want to fit this smart meter. They really want to see my fingers.
But we got that in, and then suddenly we are now a household where the lights get turned off all the time. Although it's gone to the point where it's like it's what I would say about the busted ass microphone we use to record our YouTube videos that Rob has.
Right. Yeah.
Which is like, it's got to the point where you're just inconveniencing yourself now. Like, I went downstairs earlier and Dad was sitting at his chair next to the computer, reading like a magazine with the light from the window. And it's like, it's 3:00 in winter and it's quite cloudy. It's like, there's not much fucking light coming through that window. This is like, just turn on a light, Jesus Christ. You already have not great eyes.
As long as they're LED bulbs, it's probably fine, right?
But you know, it's
use
that classic thing where it's like, suddenly you have live data and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah,
you
you
could
start
do-
monitoring it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I doubt this situation will last like, more than a couple of months, and then everyone will just forget and just start leaving the lights on like they used to.
Oh, yeah. No, I think you're 100% right. That's what happens, isn't it? You get all excited about the numbers, and then it's all like, yeah, they're just numbers. I remember I had that same feeling about running for the first few months. It's like, hey, the numbers are coming down. That phase.
That's good though, right?
I mean, that's good for a while, and then they stop coming down, and then you get bored.
Then you get bored of it.
Yes, it's sort of like when they don't change much.
Hmm.
Like, I'm sure turning off one light, even over the whole course of a day, doesn't really change the numbers that significantly that you even notice. Depend because it's an average over everything that uses power in the house, and it includes the gas as well. So it's like just turning on the cooker completely fucks up those numbers if you're using the cooker on one day and then not on another.
Yeah, it just murders it, like turning the kettle on. Like you'll suddenly go bang.
Well, sure, but
have
the
a
kettle's
power
like
supply.
a small, short-term one, whereas like having the gas on the stove, that could be on for like an hour.
Mm.
And the gas, like, supposedly the gas meter, like, senses at a different rate. It only updates every 30 seconds or whatever, so those numbers aren't even that accurate. So, it's a entertaining little thing. And also, it's another one of those comedy moments where it's like, oh, look, we can use this little display to see how much power we're using. But how much power does the display use? Because it's plugged into the wall. You can never know.
But you could turn absolutely everything off in the house, so there's like as little power draw as possible, apart from the meter.
Well, I was thinking of that. It was like, I wonder if you could actually get to zero. Like, can you do that? I'm not sure you actually can, because presumably there's like, even just for example, just for our boiler, that has to be constantly on, so that's some amount of power drain.
Yeah, that'll be the thing. There'll be like some boiler somewhere, or I don't know, maybe part of the electricity grid itself that's problematic. You can't tell. Some resistance somewhere.
Well, that's not the same as a power drain, though.
It could be. Depends how your lights are run as well. If they're on dimmers, then they might not turn off, if you know what I mean.
I don't think any of our lights are on dimmers. We all have all the school switches.
Okay.
But like when
on the
first
day,
day,
by that metric, technically all the lights in my house are like always on now.
Yeah,
but they're just not producing light.
The first day I came downstairs after it had been installed, it was like, do you know how much power your computer uses? And I was just like, do you really? Did you, for example, turn the fridge and the freezer and the hot tub off? I don't think you did.
Also, that varies wildly as well on its own.
Yeah.
Like your PC under load will draw depending on what kind of kit you've got in there, like 500 watts to a kilowatt, I guess, depending on what you're running.
Yeah, although I suspect my one's probably well lower than that even. I
Maybe.
can't remember what power supply I have in there. I think it's probably an 800 watts, but I highly doubt it ever gets that high. Or even close.
No, I think I've got a 750 in this thing in fire, and yeah, I'm not. They're designed so you should buy a power supply so it's enough, but that you shouldn't really get near it. Yeah, and I bet I don't go far over 500 when I put the whole system under max load. But still, that's 500 watts. That's hundreds of watts.
It's a hundreds of watts.
Hundreds.
Maybe next time no one else is here except for me, I will actually just go around and turn everything off just to see.
Can you? Is it like a wireless meter as well?
It is.
Can you detach it?
Well, or I assume it is. It has a cable that plugs into the wall, but I assume that's just for charging.
Yeah. Oh, that could be some fun video content we'll get from Zach.
Don't think that's going to be a video.
So a breakdown of domestic energy consumption.
See if turning the lights on my keyboard makes any significant difference. It won't, because that's like 2 volts or whatever. Probably not even that coming through a USB.
Yeah. Look, if I turned off the lights on my Razer keyboard, would I be saving power? And it's like, well, technically yes, but
not enough that it will show up on an electricity meter, though.
Probably not. You could find out how much all your TV stuff on standby really uses.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about how all the lights have been turned off. It's like, okay, but then what about, for example, your Mac? Because you just walk away and leave that to go into standby mode. How much does that use?
Probably way more than the light.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, what do they say when they report like consoles as standby mode out? They're still like a few watts, right? They're like 3 to 5 or something like that. There's a small number, but they're still draining while they're in standby.
I don't use the rest mode on my PS4. I just turn it all the way off.
Depends what I'm doing. It's like if it's I don't mind turning something all the way off if I'm not using it all that frequently.
That's how that's meant to work.
Yeah, exactly. But like if it's a game I'm playing actively, then yeah, I want that suspend feature, because the suspend feature doesn't work if you turn all the way off. Doesn't it? Or does it? Like you have to reboot a game from scratch on
no, it
PS4
doesn't work.
if you come. Yeah. So I don't want those Red Dead loads.
Yeah, they take a while. Well, the first one, and then it's fine. But
yeah,
still.
exactly. So then you suspend it, and then you don't have to wait for it again.
Okay, now that you've referenced video games again, now it's time to move on.
Video games.
We've looped it back around.
The power draw of a PS4.
We could do a quick film section if you wanted to get something else out of the way.
Sure, what's going on in films?
Zombieland Double Tap.
Oh, yeah?
I finally went to see that.
Any good?
It is good.
Oh. Good.
If you liked the first one and you want a slightly less good version of it, but not enough to stop it from falling into the good category. It's not less good enough.
To not be good.
To not still be good. Yeah.
Okay.
There's some words that might form a sentence.
An endorsement.
Did you watch that last Star Wars trailer?
I did.
I have, yeah.
Do you see the Mandalorian trailer?
I have not.
No.
Okay. Anyway, Star Wars trailer. Yeah.
Apparently they're going to spend some amount of time just running around on a big pile of wreckage. That's what I mainly get.
Running around on the Death Star, running around on Endor-y type planet. Is she being chased by like one of those training drone things, or by some other kind of drone? I don't know.
Maybe.
I couldn't quite spot that.
We still don't really know anything, do we? They've very much played the sort of here's some stuff.
Well,
I mean,
it kind of looks like going to the Death Star wreckage in the ocean. Looks like maybe the opening sequence potentially.
Yeah,
you do see like Rey and Kylo sort of fighting together and attacking that sort of figure that smashes into a million pieces or something.
I don't know if they were fighting together exactly. It looked more like they were just like they collided and slammed into that thing.
Maybe. Okay, not sure about that. Or anyway, yeah, they're definitely fighting each other. But I think that's got to be at the start.
Yeah, I sort of read it as they were fighting alongside as well at one point in that. I could be wrong on that. I might need to go rewatch.
And then you got the Emperor's voice saying, "You're coming together. Will be your undoing." And it's like, who could possibly be coming together? I don't know. Yeah. So
and a back view of him. See a bit of cloak sticking out from a seat.
A cloak, a nice looking seat.
Yeah,
displayed.
Clearly, they're talking about Finn and Pilot Guy, who finally get their romance on.
Absolutely, yeah. Poe Dameron, yeah,
that's it.
And then you've got the C-3PO sacrifice death scene,
whatever that's
or something, which is probably a misdirection, but who knows?
Unless they're just going to be like, well, we already erased their memories one time between episode 3 and 4, so let's just do it again. Set them up for the next trilogy so they can start fresh.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, exactly.
I appear to be dying.
I mean, obviously I'm going to watch that movie. That trailer made it look a bit better.
I mean, that's because the trailer's not really showing us anything real about the plot.
The trailer's just showing pretty images and not like the concepts. Which
some nice pretty images. I liked seeing the freaking blockade runner, Tantive 4 or whatever it looked like brushing up against those trees and clearly landing on a planet and stuff. That'd be kind of cool.
if I'm being honest, it's like, yeah, it's a trailer that doesn't tell us anything about the plot, so it's hard to get hype or not. But also, in the same breath, I kind of prefer that they're doing it this way, because there's nothing worse than a trailer that gives everything away.
Yeah, yeah. They're quite good at that with Star Wars, not with other.
Yeah, they have generally been pretty good with their trailer.
There is that shot with the Millennium Falcon and tons of Rebel spaceships, right? Which looks like the biggest space battle ever or something. Just one shot. Because you've already seen like a lot of Star Destroyers, like a stupid amount, right? All in a big cloud or something from the previous teaser trailer. And now you're seeing like every Rebel ship imaginable.
We just like have suddenly decided to turn up.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there wasn't the whole thing down there. We're just down to like one ship.
They were down to one ship. Yeah, so that doesn't make any freaking sense.
Although I guess they did say in that movie they were like the other sort of rebel planets don't really care at the moment.
Right.
Is basically what they said. So
even
now
though
they
the First
started
Order blew up half of the New Republic in Force Awakens with the Starkiller base thing.
It's fine. They won't come and bother us. The Empire didn't really change us either way. So we'll just go with it. Yeah.
Blah. Anyway,
that's what they're saying.
Come on. Let's hope it's a bit better than the last one. All I can hope for is it's better than the last one. Yes, we need a new hope, and then we need it to be over.
Oh yes.
Although there's that art Free Folk are really happy because the Game of Thrones writers who were slated to do a whole trilogy of Star Wars films, they've been ditched.
Weird.
So Free Folk are really happy because they hate them for the last season of Game of Thrones.
Well, I mean,
who are Free Folk?
Free Folk's the Reddit community of it's like the meme. It's like the Game of Thrones meme community.
Okay.
It's kind of like the prequel memes of
yeah,
Game of Thrones. Yeah.
I get you.
But could the writers of the last series of Game of Thrones be that much worse than the writers of the last two Star Wars films?
I thought Force Awakens was okay. It's just made the classic Abrams mistake of setting things up with no idea where they were going to go.
Then left it to someone else to.
Yeah, and left it to someone else to
maybe that's why a set of writers who wrote a whole series would be better then, because they've used them.
But they didn't write. That's the problem with Game of Thrones, right? Because they were just adapting good source material, and then when they ran out, it all went wrong. So
I guess they had like a longer period before it all went wrong, rather than being it between two separate films.
Yeah, I guess.
They had several episodes before they ran out of ideas.
Anyway, I'm still hopeful about The Mandalorian. I think it looks kind of potentially cool.
I finished watching The Boys.
Oh, yeah.
That ends well.
It's got a dark ending, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's also it's
one of those neat little twists where it's a twist ending where it's just like, okay, I'm really not sure how this is going to sit in the next season, though.
Well, that's the thing.
All the motivations have changed, and it's like, oh, what? I
was sort of forgetting that there would be another season. I was like, and then at the end, I was like, oh, of course they have to set up another season.
They'd already announced that they were doing a second season. I think before the first season had ever even come out.
Right.
They were that confident in it. But now we've got to wait till like summer next year. And it's like, I can't wait.
That's fine. Come on. Yeah, I
suppose we've got Picard to look forward to in the meantime.
Picard, my God. I don't have very high hopes for Picard, but you never know. No, because I don't think I think he'll be. Well, it's named after him, but I think it'll. They'll try and make it about the new characters and stuff, and the mysterious girl, who's somehow connected to the Borg and is a super karate girl or something. It's like, how many times have I heard that before?
Is she played by Summer Glau? Are we actually about to watch Firefly?
Probably. I don't know.
Sweet.
So, yeah, we'll see.
Did you see that, what's his face? Patrick Stewart is in the new Charlie's Angels film.
There's a new Charlie's Angels?
There's a new Charlie's Angels
Why? Film. They already remade that.
and it looks just as bad.
Why did they even remake that in the first place?
I don't know. Maybe it's like you get another Destiny's Child single on there. Everything comes together. We've got to be so 90s. Right. Let's do it again. Actually, no. Sorry, it's not Destiny's Child. They've gone Ariana Grande.
Yeah, of course.
To be just as cheesy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's happening. Games.
Right, away from TV and film. It's time for video games. What's going on?
Video game news. Some stuff happened. I suppose we should talk about Blizzard some more.
BlizzCon
happened, and I'm hesitant to say they have saved face completely. I don't think they're
they have attempted.
Yeah, I don't think that they can wipe away what they did at the Hearthstone tournament and Blitzchung and his support of Free Hong Kong and how they just smacked him right back down. I don't think that's going to be forgotten anytime soon. However, a couple of big announcements coming out of BlizzCon and a somewhat legit sounding apology means maybe they're okay. Maybe I kind of want them to be okay, but they still did the thing.
They're trying.
I still feel awkward, but like, I don't actually. I feel awkward about Overwatch 2 in general.
So I don't get this.
It's a weird pitch, yeah. So it's like a full-on sequel in the sense that it's getting a new coat of paint, it's getting new UI, it's basically a new tech under the hood, supposedly, some new maps, but all the old content is still going to be there. All the old heroes are still going to be there. They're adding single-player, basically a single-player mission-y sort of game to it as well. They're adding PvE content, so you can do co-op stuff. They're adding new game modes, so it's but it feels a bit like a huge content drop as opposed to a brand new, completely new game. And it gets weirder in the sense that they are going to be fully supporting Overwatch 1 still, in a way that makes it sound like they're going to be getting all of this new content apart from anything that's like explicitly PvE or the single player stuff. Or at least that's the messaging they're putting out, and it's like, that's odd. That's weird, right? Because that means if you're into the multiplayer, then just keep playing Overwatch. You don't need Overwatch 2. What's the sell here particularly? And it's hard to understand. Everything you've done in Overwatch 1, like in terms of unlocks and character progression, all that stuff, will carry over into 2 as well. So they're going to sort of live side by side, sort of. There's going to have to be a cut-off point, right? They can't just keep maintaining both of these things. Or can they? It's just odd.
It's a bit confused.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they just hope everyone moves over or something. Or...
Yeah, I don't quite get it. I mean, I sort of get the requirement maybe that they have to perhaps to put out a sequel, right? That it's been 3-ish, maybe 4 years, 3 and a bit years since the first Overwatch was released. And maybe they need a whole load more people to buy it. And Overwatch 1 has only just come out on Switch as well. Let's not forget that. But I didn't really think Overwatch was particularly dying. Or maybe, outside looking in.
I don't think it is it?
I don't think it's like lost players, but I wonder if Blizzard just needs some way of getting a healthy dose of cash without like completely obliterating the existing community by having a brand new game. It's an interesting approach. I get the feeling there will have to be a cutoff at some point. Like maybe they'll run this way for like a year or something, and then they'll be like, "All right, Overwatch 1, you're not getting any more content now. Everything's in 2. We've supported the community for this long. Please move to 2, please. We want your poundage." Slightly odd. Also, I'm not quite sure, because they've revamped the look a little bit, and so everything looks a little more... The problem I have with it is it looks a little less Pixar, right? It looks a little less stylized than it did before.
Oh, yeah.
It seems slightly more... I don't know, like the next gen filter of video games is on it. not like the brown next gen filter, but you know how a lot of like material a lot of modern video games like have a certain look now that they didn't used to have. Right, there's a certain way that games are rendered now that.
With the material-based rendering.
It might be material-based, or some of it, or just lighting techniques have changed. Which, don't get me wrong, are generally more realistic and more accurate and stuff like that. But because everything's sort of going in that direction, the fact that Overwatch looked like it did, I don't know. This almost feels like a step back. It's like I want you to keep style a little bit. I don't know. I'm like this with a lot of like style changes to things. I'm like I don't like it sometimes where it's something I already liked changes because a bit of me goes, bleh. But so maybe
I know what you mean.
Me, but
I mean, even TF2 had that kind of effect after they, because it had such a strong look at first, but then they added so much stuff that it kind of watered it down quite a lot, and you could no longer tell the classes quite so easily from their profile and color and stuff because they had so many different hats and shit.
Yeah, true. And you could argue that's kind of been a thing in Overwatch from the start, right? The characters still look like they do, but there's quite a lot of characters that are semi-similar looking, unless you know who they are, and they can be wildly different based on the skin they're wearing. And it's so unless you're coming up against Winston or something huge, and it's like, oh yeah, I know who that is.
Yeah,
in an instant.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, I think we'll just have to see how that one goes.
Yeah, I don't think they said how far away it is. So we'll just have to see how that pans out. I imagine it can't be very long, though, if it's all just trying to roll into Overwatch 1 and all that stuff. It's like, that's probably going to come out, I don't know, maybe summer next year, be my guess, unless they've already announced something sooner. It just feels weird, especially if you only just bought the Switch version.
True. Has that been popular, the Switch version of
I
Overwatch?
have no idea.
That doesn't seem like the best fit necessarily, but I don't know, maybe.
No, can't say I've really paid too much attention to it. So I know it runs at like 30 frames per second rather than 60. So you're losing something there compared to all the other versions, but hard to know really. I imagine it probably plays fine. It's just not the ideal place to play. Like Rocket League on Switch, it's like it's fine, but it runs at a lower frame rate and stuff like that, which makes it slightly less cool.
Okay, what else is going on in BlizzCon? Diablo
4. Yeah,
Diablo 4. Announced with a trademark Blizzard ridiculous cinematic, which is really long. It's like 8 minutes long.
Okay, yeah, I haven't actually watched it, but
it's pretty cool. As you can, in the history of these Blizzard, not really connect. I don't know. Why do they do? I mean, I get why they do these, but like they do them to announce like new World of Warcraft expansions and stuff. But they're not really connected to the game, are they? Like, well, they are because it's the same characters and stuff, but it's like a totally different. It's just this thing that they also do for promotion, I guess, but also ties into the lore of the games and stuff. Anyway, it was pretty cool. It's like the summoning of Lilith in a really creepy way.
I hope it's creepy.
And some
fit with its themes, it has to have some level of creepiness.
Yeah, well, it seems to be going more creepy, back to sort of Diablo 1 and 2 kind of levels.
Okay.
And based on this, and the animation of the people is, it's quite a few levels above that old Final Fantasy Spirits Within kind of level of eye rendering.
Right,
yeah. Anyway, yeah. But then I don't know much about the gameplay of Diablo, so I watched some of the gameplay. I was like, it looks like Diablo.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have the same problem looking at this from afar. I've never been a huge Diablo fan. Like I think I may have dabbled a tiny amount in 1 or 2. I can't remember which back in the day, but it just didn't. It just never grabbed me. But
you guys mostly played like the similar games, right? What am I thinking?
I mean,
of?
I played quite a bit of Torchlight.
Torchlight, sort of thing. Yeah,
which is Diablo-esque, I guess, inspired. A dungeoner.
Yeah. So we'll see. I don't know if they produced this cinematic like to kind of. Presumably they were doing it anyway, but as like a big thing for BlizzCon because of all the controversy and stuff.
I imagine that one, this Diablo 4 announcement was more being born from the fact that, hey, last year we did Diablo Mobile or whatever it was
probably,
called.
yeah.
We probably need to do this for real this year.
So they have, yeah. And it looks like there's 3 classes in the opening base game. I think there
we're
was
going
like
to have a
4 or 5
real money
in the
auction
last one.
house.
Yeah, we shall see.
Yeah, not really my thing, but it'll be interesting to check in with Kippers, because he's he was definitely a Diablo 2 guy. I don't know if he really played 3 all that much, but
Maybe 4 will be back in the kind of 2 vein.
yeah,
Vein of 2.
back in the groove. Okay, so that's Blizzard news.
Mm.
And now to a different B. Talk about Bethesda very briefly,
Okay.
because they're adding a subscription service to Fallout 76. You know, that hit game of last year.
That huge success of last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That didn't have any problems at all with its launch, and isn't a buggy mess, and hasn't delayed all the features they promised multiple times. You know, that one. That
What are they
perfect game.
offering in exchange for this subscription?
Right, so it's like, I forget what it is. It's like $100 for the year or something like that, and you get the ability to have a private server, and you'll also get some of their paid currency each month. That's pretty much it. And they call it like the first subscription or something like that. It's like literally just called the first or something like that. Yeah, that seems like a lot. That seems like a bit of an ask for a game that's like already like, you know, not exactly got a huge amount of goodwill surrounding it.
No.
Is a full priced game still, I think, to get in on. And is not as good as playing Fallout 4. You know, it's a weird one. And it's like, and now they're introducing tools to basically segment the community even more. I don't know
what they're... Yeah. Are they trying to tide things over until... What have they got coming up? Like, Elder Scrolls has got to be a way off still.
Oh, yeah. Elder Scrolls 6... No, is it 6 or 7 they're on now? 6.
Yeah, 6.
Yeah, that'll be miles away still. As we still haven't heard much about what's going on with Starfield. Yeah, I don't know.
Doom
what
is
Bethesda's
coming, right?
Yeah, that's not Bethesda Softworks, though, is it? That's or
No.
at least the game studio, whatever it is. It's like Doom is id.
Is id, of course.
But yeah, I don't know what Bethesda are actually up to, really. They've probably got a bit of a gap until an actual release. So milk it seems to be the message from on high.
Milk it.
Milk it. In their defense, supposedly the private server thing has actually been one of like hugely requested by their community.
That's not in their defense, because they basically decided to make you pay for a thing that people thought was going to be free. Or
Did they
just
think
a
it was
regular
gonna be
update.
free?
Well, because they've already bought the game and they were like, "Our Bethesda wants to know how we think this game can be improved." So obviously they're just going to patch it. But no, you got to pay money for it.
Yeah, I don't know if like renting a private server though. That's not something you.
But it's not
normally
renting a
expect.
private server, is it? It's just like a
It's sort of
cloud
is.
server that just emerges. And apparently they might not even be like real, like private. They might be like reused instances in some cases.
Oh, it's almost certainly going to be like some kind of dynamically allocated thing. It's not like you're probably renting physical hardware somewhere, because that's just not how servers work really these days.
But like, you know, it's not like they had to buy more hardware or anything.
Oh no, it's almost certainly that they bought too much, right? That they have just these servers lying around and they need some way to monetize them. It's more likely that.
Could be.
But it's not even really like any different anyway, because in fact I'd say like it's probably not even more server instances than already existed, because it's not like that game is an MMO. It's just like, you know, a few people get shoved into a server together, and then depending on where they go, they like disengage or whatever. So it's, you know, when you say it's a private server, it's really just like limits what people can connect to it. But I'm sure that that number of players would still have been playing on that number of servers, really.
Maybe. Yeah, it's hard to know exactly how that's going to pan out. You might be onto something. Technology-wise, that might be just how they're doing it. They're just segmenting instances to be like, I'm in private mode, therefore my group of... I think it's limited to, like, so one subscriber can also allow 7 other non-subscribers into their private instance.
Well, yeah, it's meant to be like a server, even though it isn't.
Yeah. So, like, you could pull... like just 7 people, you could have just 8 people on this server. I don't know if that means if you had like 2 subscribers in your group, you could theoretically pull 16 in. And I'm not sure they've made it clear whether or not the person who is the subscriber has to be online in order for the other 7 to play. Right, okay, so that limits it a little bit as well. Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit of an odd one. I don't think it's like too. I mean, Minecraft like charges for realms, right? It's like it's
sure, but those are more like servers because it's like it's persistent.
Are they though? Yeah. Well, I imagine this is persistent as well. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah, but I mean, it's persistent. Like the owner can log off.
Oh, I see what you mean. Right, the realm just runs, and those who have access can get in.
Yeah, I think.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Maybe. Yeah. Still a bit. It still feels like a bad move for a game that hasn't exactly done a lot right. They need to make some moves that make people feel good about the game, or outsiders feel good about the game. Or maybe they're just saying, sod it, like no one else is going to buy this game, so we need to try and milk up the community that we have. So, yeah, I don't know, it doesn't sit right with me. If it was a good game, then maybe this wouldn't end up feeling so bad, but it's not. Unless they think everyone's wrong. The world thinks this is a bad game, but we're Bethesda and we know otherwise. Anyway. That's that. Death Stranding is getting a PC version.
Indeed.
Hooray.
Good.
In summer next year.
Did Horizon Zero Dawn get one? No, I'm just thinking it's the same engine, right?
It is the same engine, so this will probably be the first time that the Decima engine has had a PC release.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's no way Zero Dawn would be released on PC. It's just not what.
Are you going to get that game, Rob?
What, Zero Dawn or Death Stranding?
Death Stranding.
I don't know. I keep flip-flopping between going it. I mean, it's because it's just come out. I'm having that classic, like, yeah, 50 quid for something I'm not 100% on.
Yeah, maybe worth waiting, but we're not going to have. I don't think we're going to have any coverage otherwise, because I'm not going to play that. I don't think.
No,
hasn't
appealed to you.
No, I really like Metal Gear Solid 5, even though, as we always say, it was unfinished. But I think it's because I think its level of bullshit Kojima story was actually slightly less than some of the prior Metal Gears, although maybe not. I don't know. But the game itself was really good. Like, it was the best ever stealth game. This open world, combination, and the AI was really good, and it was just really fun sandbox with like a lot of cool stuff you could do. It was a really good game under there, even though it, combined with all of the Kojima ridiculousness, worked really well. But then, of course, it had that unfinished thing where, like, Act 2 or whatever, where you were replaying missions and stuff, and or whatever, and it was all really weird, and then it didn't quite tie together at the end. Yeah.
Somehow doing those replays would trigger a new cutscenes,
and like it was all a bit fucked up. But I didn't really mind because the game was so good. Like, and already like the story was kind of ridiculous. And like Death Stranding, it looks like the game has probably got better quality bullshit. Quality? How would you refer to it? Like the kind
fidelity?
the madness you want. It's got maybe more of that.
Dialed in madness.
Yeah. More layers of insanity. The advantage that Metal Gear Solid 5 had is it was building on layers of insanity from years and years, and it was, had characters in it that were, had been set up since the 80s in some ways. But also it kind of screwed up because like Revolver Ocelot in Metal Gear Solid 5 was kind of boring when he used to be like this awesome character.
Yeah, and kind of very different from who he ended up being. And I mean, if you know the series as a whole, like a lot of the stuff from Phantom Pain really doesn't tie into the other stuff very well at all. The twist, Sahelanthropus is like more advanced than Metal Gear.
Yeah. But that's always typical. Like,
there's a lot of that already in the series, but they went way more. Here, there was way more of that in 5 than there was.
Well, actually, I think that the most insane kind of technology anachronism bullshit is the preceding PSP game, whatever. What was it called? Peace Walker, which actually is really important in the lore of Metal Gear Solid, and is set in like the 70s. And has like super intelligent AI drones and shit in South America or something, and like full on Metal Gears and stuff, and that really doesn't make sense. Because at least with the 60s one, sorry to go into Metal Gear, but the Metal Gear Solid 3 I thought did it relatively well. It didn't have a proper Metal Gear; it had a kind of proto one, right? And that kind of worked really well. And Big Boss and everything, but then Peace Walker kind of screwed that up in my opinion, and then Metal Gear Solid 5 sort of carries on from Peace Walker at the start, with the mother base. Well, no, it's the prologue. What's it called? What was it called? The one where you're on that
Ground Zeroes.
Yeah, Ground Zeroes. Yeah. The end of that, like, carried on from Peace Walker and had mother base being destroyed and everything. And anyway. Blah-de-blah. I'm just saying, back to Death Stranding, like, the walking simulator thing. Yeah, don't know. It looks sort of intriguing, but I don't think I have the patience.
It's hard to know, like, whether or not, I don't know if I'd be, like, screaming at it the whole time, just being like, oh, why did you overbalance her, you stupid Sam Bridges, man. Just walk in a straight line.
I mean, I like the idea of him being unshackled from Metal Gear and not having to do a military-themed game about nuclear proliferation, which is the main theme of Metal Gear, right?
Sure, yeah.
You could completely get away with that and go away from that and do something totally different, which is a great idea, but this is what he's done? Okay.
I mean, it is wild, like, in concept. It's like, as I say, I think it's more just what the moment to moment is more than anything else. Like, I don't mind, and like, I'm kind of all in on its crazy ass concepts and things like that, and then the cutscenes and Guillermo del Toro and Die Hard Man.
I mean, that stuff,
all that stuff sounds great, and in its own mad kind of way. Two bad guys. You've got Mads Mikkelsen and Troy Baker. It's like, oh, good names, and like, I want to see what the hell happens, but in order to get that 20% of good stuff, I've got to spend 80% of my time just wandering,
doing delivery missions. And like, it does look beautiful. Like, the art direction does look amazing, but it just doesn't seem worth it to me.
I just don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why it'll be intriguing, but it sounds long as well. Like, a good 50, 60 hours sort of thing.
I think you could get stuff out of it if you had the time. If one had the time, one could get stuff out of it. But like, bang per minute doesn't seem there to me from my initial impressions from these from trying to understand the sense that people are making of it or lack thereof. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm probably going to give that a miss, which is a shame in some ways.
Well, by all accounts, it sounds like a hugely polished thing, which is great.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, the fact that you can do something so outlandish with such a AAA in the AAA kind of space is kind of
it's refreshing.
Cool. Yeah,
it's refreshing.
I'm not saying I want every game to be the same. I'm definitely not. No, it's just that like when you take a risk, you can. That's great, but you could screw it up. Obviously,
yeah. I know what you mean. It's really nice to see a AAA game push in such a weird direction. Like it seems so unusual now that that's what happens. Like even games like The Evil Within, that on their surface, like you look at and think like, oh right, yeah, this is trying to be weird and push the horror genre in strange directions. It's a kind of a third-person shooter, really, isn't it? In many ways, like in terms of its actual gameplay, it's like it actually doesn't boil down to anything particularly risky at all, just the setting. And if you're being super reductive, most games are that, right? They're probably a third-person shooter of some kind.
Yeah,
in some sort of setting.
I quite like that Death Stranding is not about shooting or combat, and that if you kill anyone, then they immediately explode and kill everyone in a massive radius. So everything has to be non-lethal. I quite like that's quite a cool concept.
Yeah,
I don't know if they immediately. I think after a while they explode or something like that.
Sure, right.
Yeah. So corpses are incredibly dangerous, so you can't kill anyone. It's kind of cool. There's some neat concepts.
Well, yeah, and the time sounds cool.
It sounds stupid, but it sounds cool.
Sounds cool. Beach things.
BTs and BBs. And...
Yeah. How many more acronyms can we get in there?
That's very Kojima.
He wasn't able to use all the military acronyms, so he's had to create a whole load more.
Yeah. Get that chiral network going.
There probably won't be any mentions of CQC, though. CQC. Or ID.
That's the thing. It's that Metal Gear has the advantage of being camp. like if you get all these really good actors in, then you don't get any stupidness like that.
Are you saying David Hayter's not a good actor?
No, he's good, but you know what I mean. It is camp.
Yeah. In fairness, I might have been about to back you up. Actually, I'm not sure he's ever been like truly great. Like,
no,
he's all right.
Yeah, I mean, I would have. I don't know how I feel about replacing him with Donald.
No. I would have preferred to have kept Hayter than to put Kiefer in, for sure, because they clearly didn't have enough time to actually get all the lines they wanted with Kiefer.
Yeah.
I suppose it makes a little bit of sense given where that plot ended up, I guess. In the end, why he would have a different voice, but...
Sort of, yeah, that's true. Although, like, Ishmael has Kiefer's voice in the opening sequence, so... Well,
that whole, like, the way that opening is framed in that and the last sequence, it doesn't make any sense either. It's like, why would...
No.
Why? Just why?
No, it's dumb. In a, gloriously dumb way.
Yeah. Gloriously dumb.
Right.
It's like the game that doesn't normally fall into that category, though, is The Last of Us. And the only gloriously dumb thing about that is they had that whole state of play where basically the only point in it was to say, hey, Last of Us 2 is coming out February in 2020. It's not. It's coming out May 2020.
Delayed.
And Naughty Dog have come out there and said, hey, we just couldn't hit this deadline, basically.
Yeah, fair. Self-imposed deadline.
Yeah.
It motivates people, I suppose, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. There are Ian Hink from the Easy Allies podcast. He did sort of anecdotally say he knew a few Naughty Dog devs, and they were like, so February, huh? And they were like, yeah, February. Whew. And they're just saying that they sort of looked nervous about the whole thing, and now, and now it makes a whole lot of sense.
It seems fine. I mean, this is going to be so what's the Sony kind of first party kind of lineup? We've got Death Stranding now. We've got that next year, and then PlayStation 5. So
yeah, there's still no word on Ghost of Tsushima, but like supposedly like the delay for Ghost of Tsushima was to push it into. Rumors are that it was going to be pushed into summer of next year, even though nothing's been truly announced of when that thing's coming out, just to sort of get out of the way of The Last of Us.
Right.
So apparently their development tracks were somewhat in sync. They were probably going to be ready at about the same time, but Ghost of Tsushima was the one that was pushed. So I wonder if, I mean, they probably won't now, because it's like it's kind of that sounds kind of mean, right? Like to suddenly crimp their release schedule by 3 months would probably be a bit harsh at this point, but maybe they will end up coming out pretty close together. But the other part of the rumor was that it's like, hey, don't expect this to have been converted to a PS5 game. But they're leaving it quite late. And if that's the case, I feel kind of bad for them, because it's like if they've been pushed back by Sony for these sorts of reasons.
I'm sure it'll come out. It'll just come out, even if it's the same time. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a bit weird, but like I guess you could at least say PS5 will be back compat, right? So
yeah, definitely will.
You'd hope. So it will come out and it will still probably look great and probably run great. Native 4K. Which apparently Death Stranding also does a very good job of.
Games are looking ridiculous these days.
Like very good 4K checkerboard rendering, supposedly, and also a very good HDR implementation for those that have the kit.
You've got HDR on your TV, right?
I do, yeah.
Sweet. Yeah. I guess your TV is a good reason to play these awesome looking games. Yeah.
I can just use it as a technical showpiece and then hate every minute of it.
Walking around.
Just walking around.
Playing Tetris, trying to load up your backpack. I think that's a lot of the game, is like stacking up your backpack in these awkward menus.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. Better have a really sick remix of Tetris now.
Ding, 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 ding.
That's all I got for news, unless Zach has some last minute surprises, which he sometimes does.
Well, there's the thing that's not quite a rumour maybe, but apparently EA, well, no, I guess it's not a rumour. EA is going to put their games back on Steam again.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Started with the new one. Like, it's literally on the front page of Steam right now.
Jedi Fallen Order.
Yep.
They want to sell some copies of that, apparently.
Apparently. So, in about, 5 years, everyone will be back on Steam. Next up, Ubisoft will come back to Steam.
Do you think that will happen with TV services? Like, everything will leave Netflix and then try and go out on its own and then come back?
Sky will buy them up. That'll be the problem. Sky will just buy everyone.
So that's weird. But, I don't know. It's like Origin seemed like the one that was actually working of the alternate stores.
What, more than
I guess, but it was only working in the sense that they had exclusivity, right? It only worked because you could only get Battlefront 2 there, for instance.
Sure, but I mean, it was functional, I guess.
Oh, I mean, in terms of an actual working store, yeah, okay, it's more acceptable than the Epic store. They launched it in a decent state, and it's remained in a fairly decent state. Apart from when it tries to update Apex Legends. God damn it. That is busted ass half the time for me. It's really frustrating. It'll, updates just fail constantly. I've had to re-download Apex Legends in full a good couple times. Because it just don't get it right.
And I guess there was also a very weird rumor about the upcoming Nintendo Direct, which this rumor might have already been proved completely wrong by the fact that it hasn't already happened. But there was a rumor about a Nintendo Direct coming very soon. The initial rumor said the first, but it's the second now, so apparently this rumor may be entirely false. But it was a very strange rumor because it had bits which you were like, oh yeah, I guess that sounds about right, and then bits that were like, okay, that's slightly weird, and then you had the end where it's like, okay, this is clearly just bullshit, isn't it? Because at the start it's like, oh, and they're going to, it's like Tony Bogart is going to hit Smash really within the next week they're going to announce that, and then they're going to announce Kid Icarus 2 for the Switch, and it's like, well, yeah, okay, I guess they could do that. And then it's like, and then it's like the last Smash Brothers character is going to be the Doom Marine, and it's like, well, that's weird, but that could happen.
That would be pretty cool.
But then the end of the rumor was like, and they're going to announce Minecraft 2.
What?
And then even more ridiculous than that, and they're going to announce GTA 6 for Switch, exclusively for Switch. It's like, well, okay, now this is just dumb.
Yeah,
Minecraft 2, that was almost believable, but like GTA 6, no.
Yeah, you've lost me.
But even Minecraft 2, there's no way Microsoft would announce that on Switch first.
No, they would probably want to push that on Xbox and Windows 10, right?
Yeah. As much as Microsoft and Nintendo get along, there's no way that's going to be first announced on Switch.
If Minecraft 2 is a thing, do you reckon that's what happened to the super duper graphics update?
Well, you could say that about practically any of the updates of Minecraft that still haven't happened. Even the different versions of Minecraft still have never managed to get aligned like they said they were going to.
But then surely like that Minecon that was like a month or so ago, surely that would have been where they would have announced Minecraft 2 rather than announcing a whole load more, a roadmap, so to speak, of what they're doing next.
I mean, if you want to really say, like, give this rumor an insane amount of benefit of the doubt, you could imagine that, like, they'd seen Minecraft Dungeons and mistaken it for Minecraft 2.
Oh, maybe. But then I would have thought that you look at Minecraft Dungeons and been like, oh wait, how does it look actually? Are you playing it from first person?
No,
like
it's
Minecraft,
third person, like Diablo.
Right, yeah, so I would look at that. That's what I thought. So I'd look at that and be like, oh, that's a Minecraft spin-off. I wouldn't say that's Minecraft 2.
Yeah, but whenever they show, like, when they do Minecraft adverts or whatever at E3 or whatever, it's never from the first person perspective. You're always seeing the characters running around in the world.
Yeah, I guess. I suppose you're right. They don't... But then they'd show some first-person shooting. But...
Maybe.
Well, it wouldn't be from a fixed-looking isometric perspective.
Yeah, that's maybe the case. But anyway, that rumor seems incredibly unlikely. But if somehow any of that turns out to be true, it will be fairly weird.
If you'd said Overwatch 2 to me, I'd have said that was pretty unlikely and fair.
Well, maybe.
Especially for Switch.
Well, we still don't know it. Is that coming out? Did they say that one's going to be on Switch?
They haven't actually talked about anything like that, as far as I can tell.
So yeah, there's that. But Terry Bogard is meant to come out this month, I guess. They said November, didn't they? Yeah, they did say November. And apparently the Smash Brothers website has updated to say just coming soon under him rather than November. So I guess that's as much confirmation as you're going to get that it is going to happen in November. And normally...
Or not, or it's been delayed.
Well, normally with the Smash Brothers updates to this point, they've come pretty immediately in the month they said they were going to, right? It's not like the last week of the month. It's normally like immediately, so...
Yeah, true. Banjo was pretty quick as well. So it's just in general.
I wouldn't be at all surprised if he does happen probably this week, but I'm not sure whether that is necessarily also going to coincide with a Nintendo Direct.
Talk about character drops.
Yeah.
Have you played that Lethal League yet?
No. I forgot, as soon as it updated, and I was like, oh, the new character's out, and I was like, oh yeah, of course it is, because it's a spooky character, conveniently timed for Halloween. Why didn't I spot that before? But no, I haven't played.
It seems kind of cool though.
Well, I haven't played it, so I don't know how it works, and maybe that's for the best, so we can make a video about it.
True. Character design looks cool though. With his weird cat cape. Shadow cat cape.
So that may be our next upcoming video, I guess.
Maybe, yeah. You could enjoy the three of us playing Overcooked right now. On YouTube. In 3-player mode. Just to be weird. And
just because there's
three of us. Yeah. That's the real reason.
Yes. Go and find a game where that actually works.
Keep kicking this microphone. I'm sorry. It looks like you can hear that.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's no worse than me hitting my microphone because it's right next to my face.
Yeah. My feet are unruly.
Unruly.
I think you're clipping a bit when you get infused, Zach. That's the
No,
only,
well,
that's the only thing I'm seeing. Audio.
How are we doing for news then?
Yeah, I guess that's it, probably.
I mean, we could talk about how Ubisoft was super honest about why they think Breakpoint is doing badly.
Well, the fact that they explicitly said it's bad and it's going to fuck up all their financials and
Yeah. Well, it's bad enough. Well, that wasn't the only reason it's messing up their financials. Like, it's messing up their financials because they decided to push 3 other games out of the financial year to try and improve their quality rather than just pump them out.
yeah.
It's just refreshing that they straight up admitted it's like, hey, we didn't need to put out another live service game so soon after Wildlands. It's like, that's what they think is wrong with this. It's like Wildlands was a step in a slightly different direction for the series. You know, they did the open world for Ghost Recon the first time. It's like, okay, maybe there's a bit of intrigue there as to why this might be good. And then what is it, 2 years-ish since Wildlands, then they do Breakpoint, and it's like, yeah, the demand wasn't there yet, is what they believe. And
Or, the whole fact that they're fucking with the whole concept of Tom Clancy games, maybe.
Well, yeah, and that. And, people have reservations about that thing in general, so it's the systems don't necessarily gel together, and that it just might not actually just be very good. That might not help, so I think it's kind of nice, especially for someone like Ubisoft, who are known to just pump stuff out on a schedule, to not be pumping stuff out on so much of a schedule.
For like a month or two, though, until the financial year ends, and then I'm sure all those other games will suddenly come out.
They'll all come out in May 2020, every game. Because, Watch Dogs 3 was March-ish, I want to say. So that's now pushed out. They said Gods and Monsters has been pushed, but no one knew when that release date was anyway.
Yeah, and it didn't seem like it was going to be very close, regardless, because it was only quite an early teaser that they showed.
Yeah, so I forget what the third thing was they said they pushed, but...
Well, Beyond Good and Evil 2 has to come out at some point, eventually. But I'm sure that... I don't think that was even the third one. I think that there was another one.
I don't think that's ever been slated for a 2020 release, ever, so... We'll keep waiting. I'll be patient. Let it cook. Do you reckon a game can be overcooked like that it isn't overcooked?
This is literally a game we've just talked about.
Yeah, but
do you reckon a game can be overcooked? Yes, it's called overcooked.
But in the sense of letting it cook, in that sense, could you reckon a game can spend too long in development and come out somehow?
Probably.
We'll just have to wait to see what happens with Star Citizen. Then we'll know the answer to that question.
I mean, maybe Solid 5 would have been better if it had less time to develop.
And
you reckon if they knew they had to just fit it all in Chapter 1?
Well, there's still Duke Nukem Forever as well, the other classic example.
That doesn't count though, because that didn't really go on that long. It just took,
It sort of did, wasn't it? It was over a decade.
Yeah, but it's not like it was being actively developed the whole time.
Yeah, it wasn't like...
What came out was like a salvaged game plus new, right? I think.
As far as I understand, I think it was mostly cobbled together, but sort of touched up here and there. Mostly. Made somewhat consistently bad. How about that? They put a consistency pass over it, and it averaged out the whole thing to poop.
It's a good question. What spent too long in the oven? Could have done with just being released earlier. It's hard to say, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, Star Citizen. Don't know if that counts.
I don't know what that counts as.
Don't know what it is, so...
No. So that'll be news.
It's time for what you've been playing.
Games.
What you've been playing, Zeg?
Well, for the last 2 weeks, I've been playing more or less only one thing, which is helpful for talking about on the podcast, although...
Convenient.
To talk about the other smaller things, I mean, I guess hopefully I can look at this helpful Steam window while I'm here. I'll just look at what I played in the last 2 weeks.
Oh, convenient.
Conveniently list them. I've went back into Astroneer for like a few minutes because of their Halloween thing.
Mm.
Go and find some pumpkins. Get a skin for your astronaut suit, I guess. And also because they've put some other stuff in, a few other modules and bits and pieces, jetpack, weird scanner device to go and find wrecked like representations of classic space vehicles like Voyager or whatever. Those used to be in the game before, but now they've reintroduced them as this new like system where you have to scan for them. So yeah, I wandered around, and helpfully there's a bug that makes it so that the pumpkins don't appear on one of the planets that the update said they were going to appear on. So I wandered around on that planet for like an hour and a half and was like, where the fuck are these goddamn pumpkins? And then just went to the forums and it was like, oh, they don't appear on that planet even though it said they would. Just fly to this other planet, you'll see them in about 2 seconds.
Right.
So I did that. And it was true. They were right there.
Rumors were true.
So it was that. And that's, I mean, apart from very small other things, that's pretty much it. Apart from the new game, which I mentioned briefly at the end of the last episode, but we couldn't remember its name. And that was because it has a name that Rob had confused with Autocry, that other game.
Yeah. Yep.
It's called Autonauts. It starts with the same letters. That's why we were confused. And also kind of generic name, I guess.
Yeah, a little bit.
But yes, it's a game where you build little robots and then programming them to build other stuff, and you know, collect resources and all that stuff. All the stuff that I usually do in games.
One of those.
Except it's like slightly more like, I guess, small scale. It doesn't scale as much as anything like Factorio or any of those other types of games. You're still only commanding a tens of robots, I guess, maybe. But it has like a kind of weird system where you sort of program the robots, but not really, because you basically set them in record mode. You do the actions, and then it records them into like a list. So it just records the actions that you perform, and like you can set. Well, after you've performed them yourself, you can look at the programming, I guess, and like edit it slightly, but not really. It's not like typing programming. It's you drag and drop blocks around, but you can't like create blocks. You have to perform the action. The robot has to see it. You can't like create. So it's kind of awkward if you want to say set a robot to recharge another robot, because in order to do that, you have to have a uncharged robot that you can go and charge yourself.
So it can witness the charging process.
Yeah, so it can witness you doing it. But yeah, then you can like shift those commands around in the like loop or whatever, and then create extra loops to have conditional loops and that kind of stuff. Not very conditional loops, but slightly conditional. And then you set the robots to do whatever you tell them to, and then hope that it works, because again, that's the game of solving the programming language, where you're like, why did this robot suddenly decide not to do the thing that I just told it to do? And then you build more advanced robots with bigger brains that can store more commands.
Kind of an interesting approach, because it's like I'm sort of thinking about the limitations of that system now, and that if they have to watch you do a little thing, it means you can't necessarily program a big, hey, if there's something here to charge, then go ahead and charge it, but don't hang around and wait for it to fully charge. Go and do something else. Yeah,
you have to like. It's kind of weird because it has a lot of options to do like kind of fancy stuff. Like the robots have like a backpack. So if they're holding a tool in their hand, you can put the tool into the backpack and then have them like pick something up now that their hands are free, and then do something else. But because of the way you have a limited number of commands you can perform, it's usually better just to make another robot and just separate the two tasks rather than going through the whole hassle of adding all these extra commands to like manipulate what items you're holding. So you can do fancy stuff, but it's often better just to have more robots, which, I guess that's kind of cool. So just build more. And of course, you just automate the robots to make more robots. Naturally.
Can you automate the robots to make more robots with a specific program already in them?
Kind of, because there's an item you can get that you can use to basically copy and paste what the programming of a robot. So in theory, you could program one robot, copy its programming into this disk, and then program another robot so that when a new robot gets produced, it just uploads that data immediately. Theoretically, that would work, but there's not really any reason to do that because it's very unlikely that you're going to need an infinite number of robots doing one thing. You're more likely to need just like 3 or 4, and then you need a different program. I was considering that maybe if you built the bit of your base that was building the robots far away and you wanted all the robots to just walk to where you were, you could theoretically have that automatic programming be uploaded.
Interesting. Yeah, so they just come find you, you turn around and be like, ah!
Yes. But yeah, it's quite a weird little thing. And, it's clearly planning to have updates because it's on the title screen. It says Phase 1, the Agricultural Revolution, where, this early phase of the game is all about initially building the robots, which are helpfully made out of wood. Of course. So it's about forestry. And then farming, where you're planting crops to feed the little colonist dudes. And then it's towards the end of the tech tree at the moment, it just starts to get into sort of the very beginning of the industrial age, I guess, where little bits of water wheels and some kind of power system that I haven't seen yet. But yeah, they clearly are intending to extend it maybe, but we'll see.
So what does this count as? I assume it's an early access, or is it just at?
I think it's just come out of early access, but it seems like they just want to just do updates for it. So we'll see.
Makes sense. Otherwise, it might be in early access forever.
Yeah,
it's just like, hey, this is a working idea. This is complete for some definition of complete.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's functional, but like judging by the way the tech tree goes, it definitely doesn't have an ending of any kind. Not that these games usually have endings, really. It's not like Factorio really has an ending. Just launch the rocket and then a screen pops up that says you win, but that's not really the end. So I guess it's not really a problem that it just doesn't really do anything towards the end of the tech tree. But yeah, I played a bunch of that, fiddled around with a bunch of robot programming. But I feel like maybe I'm already done with it for a while again. Wait for some updates.
So how long would you say is like... Ooh, I've done it again. Really feet. How long would you say is like too long for you to get bored of one of these then, when they don't have enough features?
Well, it depends how many options there are to solve the same problem, I suppose. It's like that's the main advantage of Factorio and some of the other ones is like because there's a lot of different ways to do the same thing, or well, not really different ways, but different arrangements to do the same thing, I guess you'd say. Whereas with this, because you're programming the robots and the robots the robots move like you, there's no like sort of well, there is logistics, but it's not like logistics of arrangements of stuff. You can put stuff wherever you want and the robots will just find their way to the place where they have to interact with the thing because they can walk like you can automatically.
So they're not restricted by the environment because you're any differently from you.
Yeah, it's not like you have to path them or anything. They don't collide with each other. They just clip through if there's more than one robot in the same place. But yeah, so that makes it maybe slightly less complicated in certain ways, but the programming language makes it slightly more complicated in that aspect. But so it kind of, once you've figured out the way to get the programming to do what you want it to do, you do just start being like, oh, I'm just going to copy and paste, or not even just copy and paste, just like, I'm just going to build this programming the same way every time, essentially. Like, if your hands are empty, go to the toolbox and get a tool, and then do your thing until your hands are empty, then you go to the toolbox and get a tool. It's just like, that loop is very common for all the robots that use tools to do things. So yeah, we'll see if that gets more complicated when they start adding the later technologies, because arguably adding more to the tech tree isn't really adding more complexity to the sort of underlying mechanics of the game. You're still just programming the robots the same way. Just adding more tech tree would just give you more things to do for longer, but you're still doing the same actual mechanical process.
Yeah, I wonder if they could introduce more. What if they introduced more so you could tech your way to more movement options and then use those movement options in interesting ways, or is it just not possible to use the movement in interesting ways?
Yeah, like if they've given you this much freedom from the start, is there any way to add some other thing that would restrict it in any way? I mean, I guess there is water, but it doesn't. The randomly generated map, it doesn't like create physical barriers anywhere that you'd have to like create a special boat lane or whatever to go across. I think
so like you could fly, for instance, or like you can get around the map anywhere, but then they can't for some reason, forcing you to like build some solutions to that. Or
yeah, I don't know. It seems like the only thing that is obviously going to come from any like additional content they make is just like more complex recipes, I guess. But because of the way the robots have limited brain power as well, you're still going to be essentially having individual robots doing like small tasks. It's not necessarily going to make each individual robot's programming more complicated. You're just going to have a lot more robots doing small individual tasks.
The bit is like, I've got this stupid idea in my head. Like, what if you could get like these robots to get over this cliff so they can go get this thing on top of the cliff, and then so I'll build a giant elevator. But the elevator needs to be powered. Needs to have a robot to push the button to say go to lift someone up or something like that. So you're having to program in something to do this traversal mechanic. Make it a little easier for your robots to get where they need to go. Like, could you go that direction?
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess you could, but it wouldn't be that much different from anything else. It's just like you're
I guess, but it's
inserting one extra robot into the process.
Yeah, I guess, but you're using a robot to assist other robots in traversal rather than just things.
Well, you can have robots pick up other robots if you want.
Can I create like a Goomba pile?
Yep, you sure can. Only it's sort of diagonal because they hold the robot in front of them.
Okay, that's actually kind of cool. Giant Goomba pile.
Yes, and that's that, more or less.
Can they pick up a robot facing backwards so you could create a zigzag?
I don't think they can. I think it's automatically facing the forward direction.
Yeah.
So yeah, I haven't really played anything else. There's been several sort of. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing for the new Steam library. The whole news feed along the top, which tells you about things that have been updating in your library. Because normally I'd have the downloads menu, and then whenever I'd see a new download, I'd be like, oh, okay, what's updated? And then I'd go look. But now it's just in this news feed, so it's even easier to see all the things that are updating in my Steam constantly. And maybe some things that aren't even installed. Like there's one of these new posts is about No Man's Sky, which I'm pretty sure isn't installed at the moment, is it? No, it isn't. And Space Engineers. So yeah, maybe I'll get. I'm feeling the draw to go back to something else again. Although I'm definitely like, I don't know. I feel like I need to play something actually new, even though I literally have just played this new thing.
Right, it doesn't sound like it's made too much of an impact on you.
Well, it was just like, it was good for the amount of time that it took, but it wasn't that, Right. I guess I did play it quite a lot, but it wasn't that deep, I suppose. I'll tell you what, maybe I should think about is Luigi's Mansion 3, right? Since I'm the one who played 2.
I guess, yeah.
I kind of forgot that was coming out, I suppose, but...
It looks good.
And I guess I'll probably have to get a physical version, because otherwise I'll have to fucking get an expansion to my Switch's memory card, which I don't know. I guess arguably that is like, is it better to buy a memory card once and be able to install a bunch of games, or just to continue buying physical cards? Like, in Nintendo's case, it's not really the cost isn't any different between buying physical and digital games because they very rarely have any difference in price or sales. So arguably buying a better memory card is just an additional expense that's not really necessary. So I guess if I can go on Amazon and see if I can get a physical copy of that.
Mario.
Then maybe we should start playing the entire thing in co-op with Luigi.
Maybe. We'll see how that actually works.
Yeah.
It's the year of Guigi.
Am I just standing around for ages waiting for you to do a thing? Is that what Luigi
Or vice
does?
versa.
Or is my entire plan to just get in your way the whole time?
Anti-co-op.
Yeah.
So that's that.
Okay. I was just looking at this the Steam What's New list because I haven't actually really looked at the new library layout all that much. They've got their winter roadmap for Rocket
League. Yeah. Such as it is.
Yeah, I shouldn't really read this on air. We don't talk about blueprints, that's all I care about, really.
No.
I'm getting some buzzing sound on the track.
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
A buzz.
Whatever you're doing, stop doing it.
I'm not doing anything.
Okay.
Someone was doing something. Or just Rob kicked the mic too hard and now it's actually buggered.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, well, there we go.
Kick it back into shape.
Yeah. How about that?
Cool. Rob, then, what have you been playing?
Not a huge amount these last 2 weeks. I did dip back into Bloodstained a little bit. To try, basically to try and, I'd sort of finished that game already. But I didn't have a huge amount of map left to discover, so I was like, maybe I can find where these last few things are. Maybe do some of the optional bosses that I didn't do before. So I went and did all of that stuff. Didn't get any friggin' achievements for it. Well, I couldn't find 100% of the map in the end. I struggled with it, so I had to look up a few of the last couple secret rooms that I just hadn't found. Otherwise, I'd be traversing the entire map again, poking my sword into every wall to see where these extra rooms were. But I knew I hadn't missed many, so it was just a question of mopping those up, seeing if there was anything interesting in them. There's a room full of music boxes that I found that you could turn all of them on at the same time and make a hell of a racket. Yeah, that game's still strangely addictive in just how it feels and how it actually plays. I like the way that it feels to play. So it's nice. I find it quite nice now that I'm really very powerful and overpowered for most areas in that game. Just walking through them, one-shotting everything feels quite nice. But I'm probably super done with it now.
Super done.
So I've been moving on to Devil May Cry 5. Devil May Cry. Because it's on Game Pass. And I might as well.
As always.
Yeah.
Didn't you try this before? I can't remember.
I played Devil May Cry 4 not that long
that's
ago.
right.
I think I did it probably about this time last year, actually.
And you were like, why do people like this so much?
Yeah, because it was... I don't know, I didn't get it, because it's... Devil May Cry 4 was about the same time as the first Bayonetta, I think, that sort of era. And I having played Bayonetta 1 and 2, and then going back to Devil May Cry 4, I was very confused, and but Bayonetta plays so much better. It feels so much nicer. I like the dodge at any time mechanic, and this feels oddly deliberate and unfair with convoluted controls at times. Also, having really loved DMC, the spin-off one that that the community here, that the Devil May Cry fan base doesn't actually seem to like, but I think is the best one. I still think it's the best one, because I think Devil May Cry 5 has I think it's cribbing from DMC more than you'd think it is. It's like in almost in a great deal of ways. Actually, it's not like the setting is now more of a city than it is like some kind of Gothic mansion or church facility or something like that. It's now just straight up like you're walking around city streets that have just been messed up, and it's like, oh, this feels a lot like DMC did, or I'm now going through some sewer network or on the top of rooftops, and it's like, this is interesting. I'm getting some vibes here. And like, I think a lot of it's actually been dumbed down quite a bit, actually, from Devil May Cry 4. Like, the difficulty feels low all around. Yeah, it's still got difficulty levels you can pick from, but I'm playing it on Devil Hunter, which is the highest one available to me at the offset, which is the one you only get 2 options basically when you start the game up. It's like there's a for people who are new to the series and for people who are familiar with the series. So I'm playing on the familiar mode. And it seemed relatively easy so far, whereas Devil May Cry 4 was pretty tricky the whole way through for me. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, I think it's generally improved.
Cool.
But I still wouldn't. I'm still not sure I rate it as high as the others. I think it's a lot less confusing. Let me put it that way than the others. Like just how you're supposed to be fighting and how you're supposed to be defeating enemies. And stuff like that. I find it a much less confusing experience this time round, just figuring out its systems. I think its controls are still they're pretty much the same as they used to be, and that they rely heavily on you locking on to the enemy you want to do things to, and then a lot of the moves require which requires holding a button. So you're basically holding right bumper for a great deal of the time during combat. To lock onto things, and then certain moves are only available whilst you're locked onto things. And I think I prefer the system still from Bayonetta and DMC, where there is no lock on. You're just attacking in the direction you're facing, and it's sometimes that can go wrong, a little bit like in Batman, I suppose. You push to attack a specific guy, and it goes and attacks someone else, and you're like, no. So you get a bit of that without lock on, but then I kind of get the same problem sometimes with lock on, where it's just like, no, I want to lock onto this guy over here, and every time I'm holding the button, it's selecting someone else, and it's like, no, I want to fight this guy. Oh, okay, I've missed my chance now. That kind of stuff. So there's problems either way, but I think I prefer it when you don't have to worry about locking on. And it leads me to all kinds of these other little things. It's like Devil May Cry 4 had a lot of throwbacks, I suppose, to the older ones, where there's a lot of fixed camera sections. Like where the camera just, if you walk into an area and the camera puts itself at a specific place and you're using those specifically set up cameras to do what you need to do in the environment. Whereas this has none of that. None. Everything is free camera now. There's there's no there's not so much. There's none of these sections where you just walk into an area and be like, oh, that's a stylish shot. It's unless it's a cutscene. The cutscenes are still mad, because of course they are. In fact, the opening to the game is really very cool indeed. Sort of aping DMC with its use of slow-mo and everything happening during this slow-mo sequence. I'm sort of sat there thinking, again, this is super familiar. But it's but generally it's weird for them to roll back on that. That one feels slightly odd, because it's that's kind of a hallmark of the series, and it's not there. So mechanically, it's almost identical when you're playing as Nero, as 4. But what they've changed is instead of your right arm was like a devil arm in 4, and it basically had the ability to effectively act like the game's chain, I suppose. You would it was called the Devil Bringer, so you could whip it out and pull yourself or enemies, so you could get into range of things a lot faster. And it still has that capability, but now it has these other abilities that are tied to whatever mechanical arm you have on there instead, because you no longer have a devil arm. It got chopped off at some point by some mysterious figure who I don't know who it is yet. And you've befriended this mechanic / gunsmith called Nico, who prepares all these ridiculous mechanical arms for you that you attach, and they all have different abilities. But the system for these is kind of odd, in that you can't swap between them on the fly. You have one equipped. You have a magazine of arms equipped. And while you can use their abilities just fine while you've got that one equipped, but if you get hurt whilst using your arm, that arm gets destroyed and it moves on to the next one in the magazine. But you could have all kinds of different types of arms in your magazine. You could have like one that's like puts out an electric blast. You could have one that is more about propulsion, so you can use it to throw yourself around the arena. You can have one that is a little bit like the weird rocket arm from Metal Gear. Just the fist end detaches and flies around for a bit, which is actually really cool.
Oh, right, nice.
Yeah,
I forgot about that thing.
Yeah, it doesn't play the was it the $1 Million Man sound effect or whatever it is, but yeah, they've all got these different abilities. But it's interesting that they restrict you from being able to swap between them. It's kind of odd. But they also all have this like supercharged up version of their attacks that also destroys the arm. So like if you want to use like Gerber, for instance, is normally the one that has a propulsion mechanic where you can throw yourself around a bit nicer, which is great for Nero, who doesn't have too many evasion techniques. To have another one is actually really useful. But if you hold down the attack instead, you basically like plant yourself down and just turn into a giant laser cannon for a while and just sort of go and have this giant beam. But I've never quite felt like I want to destroy the arms, if you know what I mean. It's like the fact that using that ability is one thing, but because it destroys the arms, it kind of, I don't really feel like I want to.
You're losing more than you're gaining. Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. So there's all these abilities on these things that I don't really want to use, which I think is a bit of a problem in the design, really. It's like I don't mind the whole they get destroyed if you time it wrong. That's actually kind of cool. So it's sort of like it's in some ways it's actually a really neat way of handling like the concept of weapon durability, right? Can you imagine if like Breath of the Wild or something like that had a system whereby if you whiffed your weapon shots, like you hit their shield or something, like that's actually when the weapon takes damage.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that sounds really neat. But yeah, that bit I don't have a problem with at all. And it's actually quite interesting. Like when it happens, you're like, bugger, right? I might need to change tactic now. It's kind of cool. I like what that does. But yeah, it's a shame they made the powered up versions of the attacks destroy them as well. You can also manually destroy the arm if you want in a sort of explosion that is supposed to be your breakaway. So if you get caught by an attack that's holding you for a while, or is about to do a lot of damage to you, you can choose to destroy the arm and it will break you out of whatever situation you're in. Which is kind of neat, but again, I'm dissuaded from using it because it destroys the arm. It's like, I don't know, I should be doing that one in particular more often to avoid some damage. But I'm not finding the game difficult enough where I feel like I would miss out by just weathering through it a little bit. It's like, yeah, it's fine, I'll take that damage. I can carry on. So that's all kind of interesting in its own little way, but it's not as interesting as V, who's like the new character to the game,
all right,
who has a very weird fighting style in that you don't fight directly yourself. You send minions to go and do the fighting for you, which it controls better than I expected, but is kind of awkward for very in a hard to explain way, in that. Like, so I don't have to be anywhere near the enemies I want to fight. I can just push Y to send my Panther guy to go and slash some dudes. Or I can still lock onto enemies, and then by pushing Y, I'll send Panther dude, and by pushing X, I'll send my bird guy to go and do some damage. And I can be telling them to do specific moves by doing actions on the sticks and things like that. So you do have some control over their attacks. It's just that you're physically not anywhere near them. And where that mixes things up a little bit is like you can only damage enemies that way. You can't finish them off. So they have to go into a staggered state, and then V has to go in himself and use his cane to finish them off. Which I think works really well as an idea. It's like it's a fun flow, like standing back from the fight and then waiting for things to get into or making sure things are in a particular state, and then charging in, and then trying to get back out again. I think that works kind of well, except for the fact that I think a lot of the attacks, I find it hard sometimes to actually get, like, if I'm pressing Y to say attack this thing, sometimes the guys will just be whiffing in the air in front of me rather than actually moving forward to then go and do the attack, if you know what I mean. I find it hard to get the minions to be where I want them to be, to do the attacks on the enemy I want them to attack.
They're too far ahead of you, or you can't pick out one in particular, or...
Well, yeah, it's exacerbated by the fact that the Panther in particular is kind of dark and black and inky. So,
right, so you can't really...
he can sometimes be really quite hard to pick out anyway. Although he has this really nice sort of particle-y animation-y thing going on where he sort of morphs into different shapes, and yeah, he's quite nicely done.
Cool.
But it's also exacerbated by the fact that when you use a certain type of evade on V, he evades using his minions. So if you're doing a side dodge, for instance, Shadow, the Panther thing, will put itself under your feet and carry you to the side, meaning he's now standing beside you.
Right.
At the end of doing that evade. So you can use it to recall them when you think they might be, because they have their own health bars as well.
Yeah.
So you can use it to recall them, just do an evade and they'll come immediately back to your side, which is kind of useful. But in the same time, if you're just doing that to an avoid attack, but you really want them to still be attacking, you're then left with the odd situation sometimes where they're beside you and I'm pressing attack and they're just swiping at the air next to me. And it's like, okay, how do I get them to go where I want them to be? So it's a bit weird, but there's some neat ideas there, for sure. And I haven't really spent a huge amount of time as Dante yet, but I think for as far as I can tell, in general, he's exactly the same as he was in Devil May Cry 4. Like, he has his styles still that you pick between, and choosing a style has certain different effects on the mood list you have, and what abilities you can actually pull off with the B button, and stuff like that. So I don't think that's hugely changed either. So, like, on paper, I think it's got an awful lot going for it, but there's just something just kind of dull about the whole thing. And in the same way that I had the same problem with Devil May Cry 4, in that, I don't know, I'm not really there's no real story to grab onto here.
That's not what you want.
I mean, everything is very stylishly made, and the cutscenes are ridiculous, and the characters are bonkers, but I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing yet. There's just some big-ass tree that I'm supposed to be stopping, and some demon king called Urizen, who seems way too strong for us. So every time, and I've been in Fort Urizen like 3 or 4 times, and every time you go up to him, he just wins. Like, because that's how that's supposed to go. The game is one of those, like, you're supposed to lose this fight situation a few times. And it's just like, I don't quite know. I don't know. I'm not attached to it in any way. It's like I want there to be more of a reason to get behind it, but it's just not, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And because there's nothing to get behind it, like, occasionally they'll talk about something, like, but it'll be like, I need the Sword of Sparda, but they won't tell you why. Like, I don't know why V's doing.
I need this MacGuffin.
Yeah, and I'm like halfway through the game, I think, and I still don't really know why we're doing any of what we're doing. Other than demons are bad, okay. I think it's an odd thing. Saying that, when there is a cutscene and stuff like that, I think they're all very slickly produced. Like, the game has this really stupid mechanic that, like, this is just like an example of something that doesn't make any sense, but I really don't care about. It's like the you're spending all this effort trying to get to where you need to be as the main characters, right?
Yeah.
But if you find a telephone box, you can call up Nico and she'll just appear in her van wherever you are. Like, driving to where you are just isn't a problem.
Okay.
Even though you've spent all this time traversing this demon infested.
Yeah.
But I think they know that, because these get more and more ridiculous as the game goes on. Like, at first, she just drives to where you are. The second time I did it, she drove off the top of a building. Third time, she tunneled from underground somehow in this, like, Winnebago and just appears next to you. And it gets more and more insane from there, and more ridiculously, like the characters waiting for her to turn up will have, like, a little skit or something in the meantime. And it's like, I can get behind this. It's really dumb. You need an excuse. You needed an excuse to bring the shop to you, even though the game already has an in-game excuse for shops in Divinity statues because they've been in all the previous games. It's like they could have just done that again. and they do on occasion.
Okay.
But I really appreciate the fact they just did something really stupid.
Okay.
I'm having a good time with it, but it's just another one of those games where I'm just sitting there, like, it's another Devil May Cry game where I just sit out and look at it and think, I'm still not quite sure why this is considered the zenith of the genre.
Yeah.
Because I think Bayonetta 2 is a far better game.
Better. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think DMC is a better game.
Yeah. We'll see if
It's-
Bayonetta 3 pulls something out, if that happens.
Oh, I would hope so. I
Would that be a
definitely hope
Switch
so.
exclusive?
Yeah, it's going to be Switch exclusive.
That would be a turn up for the books, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Oh, man. Get hype. I really hope we see something about that soon. That's pretty much all I've been doing, really. Just playing that in dribs and drabs. Yeah. I think that might be it for me.
Blimey. Okay. Well, I've not got much. Still playing Zelda, but it's a pretty much known quantity, that one. I don't think it's a very long one either. But, well, played it before back in the day on the Game Boy, so... Yeah.
How far do you think you are? Like, can you remember much about the Game Boy version?
How many of the 8 dungeons have you done, I guess?
Yeah, I've done like 5 now, so yeah. Getting there.
Not glitched it significantly then.
No, I haven't had any trouble since then. Since the start when I almost got stuck in someone's house and had trouble trying to get the items out of the grabber machine thing. But otherwise, yeah, it's not been too bad. I think, but I kind of am aware that it could go wrong, so I'm like, don't do anything stupid.
Yeah,
don't try and be clever because you'll probably pay for it.
Sounds like what happened with SteamWorld Dig 2, where I found that shortcut that was kind of a sequence break and nearly got stuck. Just like you can see it, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I could probably do that," and then you do, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I wasn't meant to." Shit.
Was that one of the sequence breaks that the game didn't plan you to do then? Because that like don't the Steam
that game had
games
sequence
actually...
breaks, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that I did was like slightly different to the one that you're meant to do. Or like, I guess I kind of sequence broke the sequence break. Like I did one of the sequence breaks you're meant to do, but before I was meant to do it.
Sequence breakception.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to play. Like last year when the clocks changed, and it was video game time. I played Red Dead 2, and now I don't know what it is this year.
Death Stranding, of course.
Well, no, I don't think so. I really don't know. I mean,
well, you'll have to play Luigi's Mansion then.
Yeah, I think probably might have to be. I might have to play Witcher 3. I never did.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Oh man, I've just remembered I'll actually have to get round to replacing my Switch Joy-Con stickers if I'm going to play another actual Switch game. Unless it works with the GameCube controller, I guess.
Well, I suppose it might.
That would be
missing.
funny.
If there's anything on left bumper, you're screwed.
Do many games work with that? The Smash Brothers controllers.
Well, I mean,
in theory,
the system detects it as a controller, so it doesn't really care. But whether it has the right buttons or not is a different situation.
So that's the problem. I've tried playing Mario Kart 8 on a GameCube controller. Not on the Wii U, on the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Switch. I was around someone's house and I was playing with a GameCube controller. And the thing you miss from that is that game has motion control for the little jump action.
Oh, yeah.
That you do. And so there's no... I think there's a button replacement on the D-pad, but I couldn't really get it to work reliably. So you were at a disadvantage playing with a GameCube controller there because you couldn't do the little jump boost.
Yeah, good point. How could you find out? Whether the game you have to try
it.
Look it up on forums.
Try to go to YouTube.
Yeah, it's just kind of OS supported, isn't it? Like it's like you plug in the GameCube controller and it registers itself as it comes up as just USB controller, doesn't
Yeah,
it? Just
it doesn't
like some
recognise that
generic
it's
thing.
specifically a GameCube adapter.
But can you use any other kind of controller with a Switch, like a USB?
I guess
Plug
it
in an
still have to
Xbox
be-
controller and see if it
Yeah,
works.
that'd be hilarious.
I guess it would still have to be supported on some level, but like it would have to support some protocol, I guess. But I don't know.
That'd be hilarious if you could get a wired Xbox controller, 360 controller.
I'll Bluetooth my PS4 controller to it.
Yeah, it doesn't have Bluetooth though, does it? Oh, it does, but it doesn't.
It does,
There's no.
yeah.
But you can't use like Bluetooth headphones with a Switch, can you?
No, you can't.
Which
it's
is
like it's
annoying.
limited to controllers.
What? That would be so good if you could. Like,
It's the
Because-
same thing they've done with all their previous machines as well. Like the Wii and the Wii U are all Bluetooth powered, apart from the video to the Wii U powered. But
like it's really annoying if you've got wireless headphones on the if you want to take it on the commute or something. That'd be so good if you could pair them with the Switch.
yeah, I mean, there's so many little things about the Switch when you think about it in that way that it's just like, yeah, why didn't you do this?
Yeah.
It's like you probably already have most of the hardware there to do it. You just haven't baked it in properly, and now you've made that decision. You're sticking to it because you're Nintendo.
It's weird.
You know, like why can't I pair a wireless headset to it and use in-game chat rather than the stupid bloody phone app?
Yeah.
That still feels like that one specifically might eventually change.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Because
the
it's
thing,
not
I
like they're
think-
going to keep working on that app, probably.
No, it feels like it's already dead.
I mean, they did
Um,
that thing for Smash Bros, I guess, but
Yeah, that's so weird. So weird. I mean, yeah, theoretically they could, but well, maybe they don't have it because maybe you need a hardware layer on Bluetooth to do audio and stuff that just isn't on their chip.
Mm.
yeah, maybe.
I don't really know how that works exactly, but maybe you have to pay someone some licensing somewhere to use Bluetooth audio.
It's annoying. Yeah. That'd be a good thing to update in a new Switch SKU if they do one.
Yeah,
Which doesn't seem to be. I guess they've
Pro.
done their Switch Lite thing.
yeah. There's still those rumors that were floating about a Pro, weren't there?
Switch Pro. I don't think they'll do that. I don't know.
Those rumours have been around for ages, though.
Yeah, they have. Slightly bigger screens, slightly thinner bezels, all that stuff. They did the bigger battery thing slightly, didn't they, on the
Yes,
regular
technically.
version Switch? Bear, is that a podcast?
Yeah, I think that is on a podcast. Coming in slightly under. Thank you for joining us. We shall
How refreshing.
all three of us playing Overcooked on YouTube if you want to check that out. And I'm sure
Yay.
there'll be new videos coming soon.
Still annoyed about that pork slice thing.
Know what I mean?
I mean,
And we'll be back in a couple of weeks with another Saladcast.
bye.
Bye.